Although I feel like, especially on social media, certainly in the mainstream media, I hear on pretty much a daily basis that Medicare-for-all and other formulations of single-payer healthcare are pie in the sky or just a dream or extreme or however people want to phrase it. In the background, even though people aren't necessarily paying attention, support for Medicare-for-all has become the majority position across America. Let's bring up this chart. And you're gonna see 59% of Americans support Medicare for all. That is a solid majority. I mean, how many other issues get passed with far less support than that? 60%. And that number is almost certainly only going to rise over time, especially as the Republicans do everything that they can to destabilize the current system that we have. Now, that's Medicare for all, where we just replace the entire thing with a single government plan. So what if we did something where you could opt in? You could be a part of Medicare or some sort of expanded Medicare, but you don't have to. Well, let's look at that. That's actually higher, 75% of Americans. It's interesting that 20% of Americans don't want other people to have the option of buying into Medicare, so that's slightly selfish, but 75%. How many issues other than universal background checks for firearms can you think of that have a 75% approval rating? And that is for this crazy, impossible, pie-in-the-sky plan that could never actually work. That now, thankfully, not only does the majority, the vast majority of the American people support, but a growing number of Democratic politicians support as well, whether in the House or in the Senate. Certainly a lot of the candidates, especially the ones we've been focusing on over the past year.
But you see how legislators are, Anna, I was just going to say that, you see how legislators are out of step with what the public wants. I mean, and that's another great example. Look, in overwhelming numbers, the public didn't want involvement in Iraq in the form of a war, and we went to war anyway. The overwhelming numbers of the public don't want us in Afghanistan. We're still in Afghanistan. Overwhelming number of the public on every poll want restrictions on guns, on assault rifles, on background checks, and legislators don't even bring it up on the House or Senate floor. And so you end up with legislators essentially blind to these kinds of polls. You're right, there's popular support for this, but we cannot get, this is why the vote and the replacement of these guys is so very important. We cannot get them to pay attention to the people they're supposed to be representing.
Yeah, and that's partially or in a large part due to money in politics, which we talk about on the show all the time. But this poll isn't really that surprising when you reflect on the last general election and how so many people who would have supported Bernie Sanders or voted for Bernie Sanders ended up voting for Trump. Now, I think that was crazy because they're two completely different people. You have one moron, and then you have someone who actually knows the issues, cares about the issues, and wants to do something about income inequality and our failing healthcare system. But there were two candidates who presented themselves as anti-establishment and who wanted to look out for the little guy. And so, that's why you saw a lot of crossover. You saw people who would have supported Bernie ending up voting for Trump. And it is a popular program. It is something that Americans do want. And it's not only something that's being ignored by members of Congress, it's being ignored by media. You see very little coverage of this issue. And I think that's part of the reason why Bernie decided to have that town hall where he talked about his Medicare for all proposal in great detail.
Yeah, that's a really great point about the media, and I hadn't considered it.
It really is a great point.
I'm really disgusted. I think I need some healthcare. Now, thankfully, CNN did do a town hall as well. They had Bernie Sanders versus Ted Cruz, which sounds like a good way to waste most of the time there. But at least they did mention it, I guess. I would like to see that sort of thing far more often than once every cycle.
Well, the media leads the debate is just what I was going to say. So that's why I like that point. I think in this country, increasingly, the media leads the debate. You see how much time and energy Trump puts into his taking in media every day, even though it's the singular voice of Fox News Channel. But I think these the mainstream media leads a lot of the popular debate, particularly among the older voters. I think younger voters are coming to places like TYT and to alternative news sources, and they're trying to get information in other places. But media does lead a lot of this. So I think the more media spotlight on this kind of thing, perhaps the more dialogue there'll be, and maybe something changes.
I want to run through just a couple more quick numbers to give an idea of hopefully any politicians are watching this and they think, well, but how could this actually benefit me come the next election? As of right now, 75% of Democrats support the idea of Medicare for all, a total system. 58% of independents, which is a nice healthy majority of independents. even almost 40% of Republicans are in favor of single-payer health care. Like, can you imagine a decade ago? Now, when you talk about expanding it to you can opt in, which is, I think it gets many of the same benefits. It's not as stable of a system. I think there's a lot of reasons why you would want full Medicare for all and not just a public option. But when asked about that, Medicare for some, support amongst GOP voters goes to 64%.
That number is actually pretty shocking to me.
That's what I aim to do on the show. I want to give you shocking numbers, Anna.
And that means you can run on that.
Yes.
That's the point. There comes a point at which you've hit a threshold which makes it an issue that you can run on,
right.
And we're there.
Right, and I think the reason why this is one of those government programs that even members of the GOP will sign on to is because all of us have to experience what private healthcare is like in the US. All of us have to go through the insurance claims, the authorizations, the insanely expensive, nonsensical prices for our prescription drugs. You know, it's not one of those issues where it only impacts a certain population of people, so only those who have empathy care about it, right? Yeah. So you know, when it comes to food stamps, the stereotypes persist on the right. But when it comes to healthcare, we all feel the pain, and I think that's the reason why a program like Medicare is so popular.
Yeah, and so one of the reasons I think it's so important to continually talk about this and to fight for this as a policy is these sorts of healthcare policies, especially Medicare for all, but even weaker versions of it, like the ACA, for instance. I just saw an analysis today that showed that after looking at several years of the data, the ACA was in effect transferring $16 billion a year to the poorest Americans, thanks to higher taxes on high-income Americans and subsidies going to those who are at the lower end of the economic ladder. It wasn't a huge percentage increase in their income, but it was a percentage increase in their income. Something like Medicare for all would be far stronger, of course. So in the same way that passing the Trump tax cuts is an income inequality boosting measure, doing something like the ACA or especially something like Medicare for all, that is a way that you push for at least a little more income equality. It's not some sort of vague, like ethereal issue. There are specific concrete policies that we can push for that actually make things a little bit more equal. And I want to leave you with one thing. So what can you actually do about this? Well, you can certainly support politicians who will not just run on this, but will actually pass something like Medicare for all when they get into office. But you as an individual, I think that we have very passionate supporters who follow the news and go out and debate and try to do something with it. And you will probably find that on a lot of topics, that is just bashing your head against the wall because people have these very solidified opinions and nothing you say, no facts can actually cause people to change their mind. The good news is that on these sorts of topics, when it comes to things like Medicare for all and healthcare policy generally, people do actually listen to new information. In a 2017 Kaiser poll, people presented with arguments against a similar proposal, this is against single-payer healthcare, became 13 percentage points to 21 percentage points less likely to support the idea, depending on the argument. On the other hand, when they were given arguments for something like it, they went up 9 to 17 percentage points. That represents, depending on who is providing the information, a gigantic swing in favor or against these sorts of policies. Don't let those on the other side of the aisle be the only ones actually out there communicating on these topics. You can help every single day to do that and to get it more and more likely that something like Medicare for all becomes actual policy in America.
And there's certain issues that people are dug in on and you're not going to take them over on. The issues with guns, regrettably, it's so hard to bring over the other side to any kind of responsible gun legislation. But what John's saying is on the issue of Medicare for all, it is possible to bring people over to the other side. They are responsive to those arguments. So pick your battles if you're an advocate. And I think while you have to fight all the battles, that's a battle you have a good chance of winning.
If you want to get the whole Young Turks show every single day, become a member, tytnetwork.com/join. And once you do, you'll be saying,
you know, I'm like a smart person.
Or you might say,
I think it's weird.
Or you might say,
oops.
No, that won't be that one. It won't be that one. It'll be great, trust me. tytnetwork.com/join.